It is such an enticement and excitement to watch passport ranking between all those countries in the world and see which one is the best and which one is not really good. And it's so excited to see which position of your country currently is in the passport ranking. Malaysia will still yet reach the status of developed country. It's actually doing pretty well in the passport ranking, often in the group of top 15 the best passport in the world in the last 5 years. So what makes Malaysian passport ranking so high in the passport index among the oldest countries right here? Welcome to Geo Malaysia. Passport derived from the French word passeport, which means to let through, because in the pre-modern era, during the medieval times, a passport is simply a piece of paper that the holder can show to the guards or the people who control the border and to let it pass through the foreign land without any obstacles or even extra difficulties. Throughout the history, there are some variation of passport existed since the medieval times, from the Umayyad Caliphate in the 8th century up to the medieval Europe and then the Renaissance and up to the 19th century. And yes, passport is still a piece of paper that told the holder to let pass through to the foreign land, and that's it about it until in the early 20th century, where passports start to become a standardized document to prove the identity and the nationality of the holder. And why the use of passports start to pick up, especially aftermath of the World War I in 1990, is because of the modern transportation makes the movement faster, and the migration makes a country more diverse than ever, especially in the new world. So just by looking at the face or colors or languages doesn't mean that the people come from particular countries, as such that the mass movement of migration in the early 20th century, which means that some legal documentation need to be done to prove that you are come from this particular place in the world. Standardized passport only become the requirement in the wake of the World War II in the second half of 20th century, where the movement of the people start to be controlled. And even in the Americas, the passport is required to go outside the country in 1952. Other than to accommodate the movement from one country to another, passport is also the proof that you are coming from that particular country, which is a kind of a standardized legal paper that everyone can agree upon, that someone can visit a country or simply pass through safely or simply mean transit. So let's talk about the passport ranking and exactly how the markings or the rankings evaluation is done. According to Henley's Passport Index, organized by Henley and Partners, which is the most popular passport ranking, often quoted by international media, evaluating about 199 passport to its usefulness to 227 destinations around the world. And to be fair, all these passports are just an ordinary passport, which means like everyone can apply to, and it's not kind of special passport or like investment passport. It's very popular in Cyprus and Malta. So all these 199 passports are ranked by how much countries an ordinary passport holder can visit, with visa or without visa, and based on this category, which are visa free, visa on arrival, e-visa, visa required before travel, and one special category afterwards in the end. So the first category of all is the visa free, where no visa application needed. You just simply show up to the country, go to immigration and present the passport. And still, even without any requirement of visa, there's still paperwork need to be filled up. For example, you need to fill up an arrival card or custom declaration card or other forms that deem necessary before you can enter the country. But basically, these are all not kind of visa. But usually, it's all form simply like basic to know who you are, where you come from, and usually just fill it up pretty quickly. Visa-free travel is quoted as the lowest restriction of international travel, and Henley in Passport Index give the visa-free travel 1 mark for every one country that give a visa-free to a particular passport holder. The second category is the visa on arrival, where the visa application apply when arriving at the destination, hence the name on arrival. And what is the difference between the visa free and visa on arrival? Because you need to still fill up the form, right? The difference is only one, which is the visa form. Visa on arrival, you still need to fill a visa form. Whether the visa free, you don't need to fill up visa, and still you need to fill up arrival card, custom declaration, and so forth, and other people necessary. And the biggest difference between visa on arrival and visa free is that sometimes visa on arrival is issued free of charge. You don't need to pay anything. Sometimes you need to pay with the money, and it depends on the passport, which country you're from, and also which country are you visiting. And sometimes also visa on arrival, you need to prepare the passport size photo for the visa application on the spot. And sometimes you don't need to prepare the photo because you just sit in the office and then smile. Examples of visa on arrival for the Malaysian passport holder is like, for example, go to UAE, for example, to Dubai or Abu Dhabi. Going there, still need to form visa, but it's free of charge. However, another country, for example, Azerbaijan, yes, there is a visa on arrival arriving at the Haidar Aliyev International Airport in Baku, but you still need to pay some money, about $30 for visa on arrival. Whether it's paid or not, Henley Passport Index gives the score for this type of a visa 1 mark, because you don't need to prepare anything, just go to the country and just fill up anything necessary and pay. At least it's simpler because you need to prepare anything beforehand. And the next category is e-visa, where the visa application made online. And the application is made before departing into the destination country. And often e-visa always asks for money, so you need to prepare some fee, need to be paid together with the visa application. Some countries who ask for the e-visa for Malaysian passport before departing to the country, for example, to Australia and also to India. And thus for this type of visa, Henley's passport index give the mark 0 actually, because you still need to fill something before you can even depart to the destination country. And the most tedious of all is applying for the visa even before the travel. And this type of visa is the most difficult to get, the most expensive because of the cost, and also the most time consuming, because visa application need to be made at the embassy before travel, and the first task to do is to locate the embassy. In the case of Malaysia, most of the embassies are often located nearby Jalan Tun Razak or nearby Ampang, which is inconveniently located far away from the nearest public transportation system, for example like LRT or MRT, which is quite a challenge. And even if you can drive, there's no parking there. Yeah, seriously, this is so hard to parking. You cannot park, and buses are unpunctual, and LRT and MRT station is quite far away to walk, and that is already added up to the challenge. So yeah, the most difficult one. For this type of visa, you need to pay before you even submit the application, and yes, sometimes the cost is really high. And together with the visa application in the embassy, often you need to have a proof of travel to support your argument why you want to apply for the visa. For example, a flight ticket or hotel reservation, or in the case of some socialist country or communist country or former Soviet countries, as for example China, Cuba, Turkmenistan, you need to have an invitation letter from organization or a person that you know from the country. Yeah, adding up there. So in this case, all these tedious and difficult steps makes the visa application before travel, Henley Passport Index give this 0 marks. And the last and special category is travel ban, where you're gonna go to that particular country because your country don't allow, or simply because they don't accept this certain nationality for the country. So there's a travel ban there. You can apply for a visa, and travel there is prohibited legally. And for example, Malaysian cannot visit North Korea since the last 2 months, but maybe nobody cares too much. However, if you notice in the front of the Malaysian passport page, there is Malaysian passport is not valid for travel to Israel. However, Malaysians still can visit Israel, but just don't use passport. I don't know how to, because I never did that. Thus, in the Henley's passport index ranking, more countries a passport holder can visit visa-free, the higher the marks, thus higher the ranking. Never assume that a visa-free travel is easier than filling out visa, whether e-visa online or applying in person in the embassy, because the border control strictness is different by country, not by visa type. I give an example of Japan. Despite the promise of visa-free travel to selected people such as Malaysian, actually the border control in Japan is really strict. When I was traveling in Japan in 2000 and I forgot the year, 2017. Even though the trip was visa-free, the immigration officer asked me such a lot of questions. Where I come from, who is my employer, why I come there, who is my contact, and what is his number, and what is address. A lot of steps there. So don't assume that visa-free means easier and visa application is harder. Big term. And because of the strictness of immigration procedures in Japan, it's actually inspired an indie game developer Lucas Pope to create a dystopian border control game called Papers, Please. Maybe you heard it before. Yes, it's not inspired from a Soviet armed state after all. So you might ask, why Malaysia rank really high in the Henley Passport Index? And there are several reasons to explain. First of all, Malaysia is a widely recognized country. As a member of United Nations since 1957, right after our independence, Malaysia is recognized by all the members of the United Nations except one, which is written right there in the passport book. Furthermore, Malaysia maintains friendly diplomatic relations with most of the countries in the world, including some of the countries in the middle of Pacific we never heard of. And non-aligned approach of the Malaysian diplomacy makes Malaysia really friendly towards any types of country, whether it's a Western European countries, Muslim countries in the Middle East, African, even a communist country such as China and Cuba. Secondly, Malaysia is a member of a regional organization which is ASEAN. If a country is a member of any regional organization which promises visa-free travel or even open travel at all, such as the European Union, it makes passport ranking really high. Malaysia is a member of ASEAN, which Malaysian passport holders can access to 9 ASEAN countries visa-free except you, Myanmar. Why are you so weird from others? Other than Malaysia in the ASEAN, another example that the membership in the regional organization can benefit in the form of better passport ranking is that the countries in Europe who are members of Eurozone can visit each other without any document checks at all. And people living in the Gulf countries such as Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, United Arab Emirates and Oman can visit each other not only just by passport visa-free but just with the identity card, with the interruption between 2016 and 2020 during Qatar blockade. There are also visa-free movement travel between the South American countries and also in the Caribbean and also in the East African countries, which form a regional organization called East African Economic Cooperation. And also some of the African countries really like open their borders to each other with the neighbors actually. The third reason is the biometric passport. Usually, higher ranking passport is a kind of a biometric passport, and all Malaysian passport issued here in Malaysia are biometric passport. There is no option for the non-biometric one. Biometric passport is a machine renewable with the fingerprints and data and photo in the chips, because biometric passport is harder to forge and falsify. So all the identities showed in the passport should be matched in the chip as well. And thus, non-biometric passport often in the lower ranking because of the lack of security and because it is cheaper to produce as well. As such, the passport in the lower ranking are often non-biometric passports. And the next reason is the domestic security of a country. And Malaysia is relatively a safe country to visit and safe country to go out also. And by comparison, the lower passport ranking countries is often ravaged with the civil war, civil unrest and high crime rates. For example, Somalia, Afghanistan and Iraq. And the next reason is economic status. Malaysia as an upper middle income country is actually fared well because Malaysian passport is located at par with the countries with a high income. And unsurprisingly, countries with a higher economic status has a better passport ranking, and often Asian countries, especially in the upper middle income, has a better passport rank despite lower GDP per capita than Western country, because the cost of living here is lower than in the European countries or the Western country, and usually Malaysian people enjoy the modern and the modest life with the electricity, clean water, internet, and YouTube, like you're watching right now. Because lower middle and lower income countries often have a lower passport ranking, as their citizens are often be in the next reason likely of overstaying and visa abuse, because Malaysians are less likely to overstay in a country to work. Despite some of the issues of the Malaysians are working illegally using the tourist visa, for example, in Australia and in Korea, but it's often an isolation cases and mostly of the cases of a human trafficking. Overstaying and visa abuse is less likely of the policy flaw. It's more like a attitude of the citizen. It explains why some countries still rank in the middle due to fact that they want to go to the high income countries and work there. And another reason is that of the attitude issues of the citizen. Even though countries that are fast rising economically, I cannot show here, but you can see here, they have an attitudinal issue. For example, of the disrespecting local culture, behaving badly, and actually the most offensive, the most offense of all is visa abuse, which means that people come for tourist visa, but at the end they overstay and work illegally, and this is often a case, especially in Europe, especially in Italy and France. In conclusion, should we believe in the passport ranking, which means that this passport is best and this passport is not really? And in fact, passport ranking is actually show the economic status, it shows the diplomatic success, and also it shows the cooperation in the form of the regional organization membership, and thus passport with the upper ranking often the higher economies and also the upper middle economies, because they are really economically and politically stable, so that people are less likely to go to other places and work or steal jobs. And also the higher income and also the upper middle income countries are also a relatively peaceful and safe country of origin. So very likely that people who come from the countries from a higher ranking will come back to their country eventually, because they need to work or to study. Yeah, life is better, I guess. Plus, the attitude of the citizen of the higher ranking passport is less a problem with the attitude of the overstaying and also the visa abuse. So it's much less likely to be happen by the people who are living in the top ranking of the passport index. At the end, it is realizing how lucky to be a Malaysian passport holder, because Malaysian can go to a lot of countries visa free, or in at least in e-visa. It is such a luxury. We can go to many countries with less restriction than the other. I still remember one Iranian doctorate student told me that Iranian passport holder can only go to less than 20 countries visa free. As a comparison of Malaysian passport, you can go to 180 plus countries without visa. So this is a really luxury in our hand. But the question is, when we can go travel again?